Hello, I am Simulator Deck, and welcome to another episode of Train Simulator. Let's get into the game. And on today's episode, this is a bit of an interesting one. We are in a fictional UK setting, which was originally built for Train Simulator, so a heritage London Underground tube train could run in somewhere historic that wasn't necessarily historic London, and we may in fact actually see one of those trains as we go around. Now if we have a look at our actual train, we'll go outside, and this train is actually from Auckland in New Zealand, and it's a 2-car diesel rail motor. Available for purchase via justtrains.net. The download and installation into Train Simulator is fairly easy. So that's the back. So we'll put our lights on the back. So red's on the back. This station is called Channel. It's fictional. Here's a look at the train next to the water. Now the reason why I selected this route to go with this train is, well, for one, there's no New Zealand route. As I was commenting on the last episode, there's no Australian rolling stock available for Train Simulator, and I haven't seen any reskins either. So I was going to run it on the same route that I ran the previous episode, but it would have been clearly out of place because it was clearly London Overground. This one is a bit more brand agnostic. It doesn't look like it's branded for any particular railway. It is if you go back several years, and of course, as I mentioned earlier, this is fictitious. But the train isn't fictitious. Whoops. The train isn't fictitious. It is here. This is our train, 2-car diesel multiple unit, as was running up until the end of diesel trains in Auckland. The Auckland system has been in various stages of electrification for the last few years. When I was over there, I think it was 2011, 2012, they were in the process of actually electrifying the line, and electric trains now run. They did also they imported trains from Australia, most notably from Perth and also from Brisbane. The Auckland trains are on narrow gauge, as are the trains in Western Australia and on the Brisbane suburban networks. You can, in this game, have a standard gauge version, which is this one, so that will fit on standard gauge tracks in game. So this is the outside. Let's have a look on the other side, looking towards the platform, and then we'll open the doors. So we'll open the doors. We'll actually see if we can look inside the passenger compartment shortly. Oh, it even says here, please tag off as you leave the station. Welcome aboard. Can we look around? Yes, we can. Safety stickers. We can only look at half a carriage apparently, but here we are. Can we walk forward? No, we can't. So the doors are closing. We'll go back to the exterior view. Open them again. So because there's no New Zealand route, I'm running this in quick drive. I guess that you can make a scenario if you want to, or fit this train to an existing scenario. I'm choosing not to. So we're just going to have a cruise around this particular fictitious railway. It has featured on a previous episode, quite a few episodes back now, when we featured the heritage London Underground tube train that we'll no doubt see as we cruise around. So this is via justtrains.net. If you just look in the diesel section, you will find this train. The developer does a lot of Netherlands rolling stock, and we'll see some of that in an upcoming episode, probably the next episode. But considering this is from New Zealand, my brothers in arms just across the ditch, I thought that this is very, very relevant to my needs. A lot of people might say, hey Eric, why don't you have Australian trains on Train Simulator? Well, it's just frankly, my friends, not possible, because unless I'm missing something, they don't exist, and basically neither do reskins. So let's put our reverser into forward. We'll go in cab for a little bit. We'll have a look around the cab. A bit of horn to go, and release the brakes. Brakes will take a little bit of time to release, and then we can power. So this fictitious line was designed for a heritage London Underground tube train, hence the third rail that you can see. But I thought this could look like certain parts of New Zealand, so this wouldn't look out of place running this train on this track compared to other ones where I might, for instance, I was thinking about running this in the one in the previous episode, but that would look so out of place. An obviously London Overground situation with a New Zealand train. So we can go up to 40 for the moment. There is a 25 board, however, coming up. Must remember this viaduct. Which I didn't. So there's a tunnel coming up. So shortly we'll let the outside scenery take over and have a look at this train from the outside. Bit of horn for the tunnel. So I'm not running a scenario with this one. We'll throttle up a bit. You can hear the diesel engines inside the tunnel. So we'll just throttle back now. We'll leave the tunnel, and now we'll go for a bit of a look outside. Show you some of the scenery. I'll just shut off for the moment. So we'll just have a look at some of the scenery, the train running through the scenery. Some people might say, yeah, you're here to drive the train. Well, yeah, I am, but that's also my channel, so I can do what I want. But in all seriousness, you can drive around with your head sticking out of the cab all day, and that's great if you want to do that. But occasionally, I know for me personally, I do want to see that train. I want to see that train. I want to see it going through the countryside and all of that sort of stuff. And, to be able to see myself driving the actual train would be pretty sweet. So 2-car diesel multiple units, and this was basically how trains ran around suburban Auckland for many, many years. The same happened in Perth, and also the same happened in Brisbane. Now the Brisbane system was electrified. It opened in, I'd like to say 1978 is when the first electrification was opened. Perth was actually an interesting one. It was in the 70s, and there was 70s and 80s, and there was massive talk of actually shutting the system down entirely and just replacing the whole system by buses. Now, when you consider that, at the time the Perth system would have extended half hour, 45 minutes out of Perth in a couple of directions. no, it would have been horrible for that city not to have trains. But in the end, there is that London underground tube train that went past. We'll have another look when it goes around again soon. Just put the brakes on, and we'll have a look at the front on shot for the moment. So what they decided to do in Perth was they were talking about, are they going to shut the system down, or they're going to replace it, the whole system, with buses, change of government, and then eventually the decision was made to modernise and electrify the various lines. So what they did, when the electric trains took over, the diesel, they sent some, I don't know how many, but they sent some diesel trains, some of the diesel trains over from Perth to Auckland to boost up their system. And the electric trains took over, and they were very popular. And since then, the system has expanded greatly. In fact, now that you can go on one of the Perth electric trains, and you can go down south to Mandurah, which is from memory about 90 minutes down from Perth, down along the ocean, heading south from Perth. Which is more of an inner city run than a suburban run if you're doing the whole trip. And in Perth, there's a northern suburbs line, there's a southern line, and both of those lines have freeways, and on those lines the train tracks actually run in the median, the area between the two lots of freeway, one going one way and one going the other, and the trains in the middle. And so from that, then they've been able to build bus interchanges, park and rides and all of that sort of stuff. And the electric train service in Perth is very well used. So Auckland, in the end, they decided that environmental factors, they decided that they were going to electrify, their trains. And so trains like this would be no longer required. Not the view I was looking for. Here we go. So this is fairly typical up until a few years ago. The sort of train that ran through Auckland. Buses are popular over there. A lot of people just drive their cars around the place, and it's only now that the system's being modernised. It's mostly electric, and there's actually some new tunnelling with a new line being built as we record this in 2020. So it's a rather sweet looking train, and it's a rather nice scenery package to run this train through, rather than having it run somewhere totally unrealistic. So we'll go back into the cab and have a look at the cab shortly. So we'll just roll up again. I'm not necessarily concentrating on the driving at the moment. I'm just showing the train off to its best advantage through the scenery and that sort of stuff. So we'll pull the... I must remember to turn that Xbox controller vibrate function off. I think it's my hard drive in my computer, and it's actually the Xbox controller. So we'll put the brakes on. Oh, that's a nice view of the train coming down. So the train zooms through the station. We'll just let it pull up. Taking some time for the brakes to apply in the full-on position. So let's go inside the cab, and when the train comes to a stop, we'll have a look around the cab. So this game is purchasable via justtrains.net. I'll leave a link in the show notes and the description on YouTube, and also at simulatorgaming.com. If you just search for the diesel trains, or just search for Auckland or New Zealand, you'll find it. So we have, it's actually fairly detailed. So we've got the power brake controller combined on the right hand side from application where we are now. So let's have a look at this. We go to lap. So it's like a halfway position between full service and released. And then we go released. 1/3 throttle. And then if we want, we can go up a little bit harder to 2/3. Whoops. And we'll go up to full throttle now. So full throttle, here we go. The gauge in the center. Now this is interesting because I am running it on, or just release. Because I'm running this in a UK scenario, they use the Imperial measurement system when it comes to speed. The speed on my screen on the map at the bottom of the page is in miles per hour. But because the train's from New Zealand, and New Zealanders like Australia uses metric, the gauge there is actually in kilometres per hour. But the one on the map on the heads-up display on the bottom is in miles per hour. So that could be a little bit confusing. Can confirm through personal experience that those brake gauges are what they look like in real life. Now this one's a little bit interesting. On the left-hand side, we can see that our brake cylinder pressure in white is off, and that makes sense because the brakes are released. Now if we want to put on some brakes, now we have the white handle moves on both, and that indicates that the brakes are on. And if you take a little bit of brake off, and if you release the automatic brake system, it goes back to 0. The brakes are now off. On the one on the left hand side, the one on the right hand side is brake pipe, which is the white one, and main reservoir, which is red. Now brake pipe, because we're braking in the automatic or Westinghouse brake, The white gauge on the right will change the brake pipe when you apply the brakes. Whereas the one in the red, the main reservoir, which controls the electric brakes amongst other things, if it was fitted, that basically stays where it is, the red one, but the white one changes according to how the brakes are applied or not applied. So let's see what works. So we should be stopped, and we're indicating 0. Now let's see if the stop engine button actually works. I don't know if it does. Some of these buttons may not work. Oh, the windscreen wipers work. It's rather freaky that it's showing the windscreen wipers while I'm looking down at the speedo, but if I was to scroll up, there we go, the windscreen wipers are on. We'll turn the windscreen wipers off. Door release button doesn't look like it works, but this looks... I've never been inside the cab of one of these trains in Auckland, but this looks fairly authentic in terms of what this train would actually have. Like, I can't do anything about changing the turning on engines and whatnot, but cab heaters, vigilance, demisters, all that sort of stuff seems to be pretty good. So let's get going again, and we'll keep an eye on the speedo as it increases. So just judging on this and this alone, it looks like that the maximum speed for trains in Auckland is 90 miles an hour. 90 miles an hour? Whoa! 90 kilometres an hour. So we'll just shut off again. But it looks a pretty good model. Oh, we can hear the ocean nearby. Looks pretty sweet. So this looks like a pretty sweet train if you want to drive something that's a little bit more Australian. Oh, and if you're a New Zealand fan of Train Simulator, and if you've got Train Simulator and you're a Kiwi, you'd absolutely love this unit. I was surprised. I found it a few days ago. I was very, very surprised, but very happy when I did. I was very, very happy. Hang on, gotta remember where the camera is. 2 thumbs up, beautiful. So that is our Auckland train. Well, actually, what we're going to do is just take a short break, and we'll load up a different screen because I want to show you something a little bit different about this train. Back in a few moments. Hello, baby girl. Hello. Hi, baby girl. Oh, you're a good baby girl. Look at you. Yes, baby girl. Hello. This is Meow Cam for the very first time. Hello, Meow. Meow, the camera's behind you. There we go. There we go. That's a good meow. You gonna disappear now, are you? Yep, there we go. There's Meow. She's gone. She has gone. Meow has gone. And now we can go back to the game. Oh, look at you, baby girl. It's Meow Meow Cam. What are you eating, baby girl? What are you eating? You got some cat food from the bathroom? You eating some biscuits? I think that's what you're doing, are you, baby girl? Eating some biscuits. Are you alright? Yes, don't press any buttons like you took a screenshot the other day, baby girl. Although that was quite funny. I wish I had Meow Cam then, but I didn't. But I do now, and you're disappearing. Okay, bye now. Welcome back to Simulated Train Simulator, and we have our train from Auckland. Hope you enjoyed. Hey, look at Meow Cam. My baby cat comes and joins me sometimes in the studio, and so I thought that I'd do some recordings of her. And, it helps me with some experimentation and some things with simulated work anyway. So I thought, why not? So now we actually have this train in Japan. So we'll open the doors and we'll let people on. I thought this would be a different environment to run the train that's semi-authentic if you ignore the Japanese signs and that sort of thing. Like that's clearly a Japanese sign. But if you ignore that when we get into the countryside in a minute, I'll let these people on. There's not much of a service out here. You could imagine this train running on these tracks. Imagine this train running on these tracks without that big, huge Japanese sign in front of us. So let's get in the cab. I have featured this route before. We'll blow a bit of horn, put the reverse room forward, we'll release the brakes, and we'll throttle up. And let's begin. Lots of birds around. No one told me that there's lots of birds in here, otherwise she'd be coming in here trying to find the birds on the screen. So this is part of a Japanese Japanese train that I downloaded and featured on many episodes ago, simulator.gaming.com. You'll be able to find it if you scroll back far enough. But this would be obviously the New Zealand version of what would run on this line. But it's only a very small Japanese train that runs here, and this train, like the Japanese train that would be running on here, is narrow gauge, so that helps as well, I guess. So we can go up to 80 kilometers an hour. So we'll open up the throttle, and I'm just in quick driving and I'm not doing a scenario or anything like that, but let's have a look at the train through the countryside, through the Japanese countryside. Like if you're just running through somewhere like here, you wouldn't necessarily know that is from Japanese unless I told you. Of course, things like level crossings and stations, and if you see other cars on the roads and stuff, and give it away. But if you're just running through an area like this, well, it might not necessarily be that obvious. Back. So we're just coasting now, not applying any power, so that is good. Just riding along nicely at the moment. Have a look at the ocean, there we go. Train going past the ocean, that looks nice. The trees are in the way, but you'll get that. Actually, no, I can't zoom out. I'd like to zoom out, but I can't. So a nice day for a train ride. I actually went for a real life train ride a little bit earlier on, and coming up in future episodes of Simulator Train Simulator, there'll be some video that I shot mainly from the train that I was on at coal trains and that sort of stuff. Also got some awesome time-lapse footage, not only for Train Simulator but also for Simulator X Farm Simulator series, which is quite cool. As well. So if you're looking at this scene at the moment, you wouldn't necessarily know that this is a New Zealand train sitting in the Japanese countryside. Somewhere. You wouldn't necessarily know. Countryside. There's lots of farms out there. Shot some awesome time-lapse footage of going past various farms while we were on the train, and looking forward to showing you those both on Simulated Erg, in Train Simulator, Farm Simulator, and a lot more. Speaking of Farm Simulator, if you haven't seen Farm Simulator before, Simulated Erg style, here's a sneak peek. Or not. Trying to do things on the fly. We are back in game, so let's continue on now as I'm working on various settings on the fly. Let's get moving again. We'll go for a bit of a cab ride. It sounds like I can hear a cuckoo clock. Level crossing coming up. So we'll see how this goes. We've got a station coming up. I think it's our last station of the route. We should see if we can stop there. It's coming up very, very soon. These brakes take a while to apply because they are just air brakes. We'll get in the cab for this last little bit. So we'll take our brakes off now. Station coming up. Small train, small platform. Would like to stop at it, please. Would like to stop. Would like to stop. Am going well. Short train, short platform. We'll release the brakes somewhat. Alright, let's see how'd we do. Sweet, that's our driver's door there. That, my friends, is rather sweet. It's looking quite good. Before we go, there's one other scenario that I would like to put this train to its test. Oh, can't even speak. I would like to put this train to one further test. But speaking of not being able to speak, do you remember that time that I needed to go to HR? Back in a moment for a train which is going to be in a very, very different environment and a very different set of circumstances. Back in a minute. Here we go. So we're at Atlantic Terminal. I'm assigned the 1228 to West Hampstead. which looks like is arriving now. Engineering work at Locust Manor means this service is only running as far as Jamaica. Okay, so we have to walk. We have to walk towards the other end of the train. Okay, so we'll get into our cab. We'll close that door. Oh, hello, what are you doing there? Sitting engineer, so she's already sitting in the engineer's seat. Engineer sitting, am I sitting on the wrong train? Let's see what happens. No, it's not going to let me sit in the engineer's seat. What is going on? I'm the engineer. Hang on. What's going on? I need to go this way now. Hang on. What? The wrong train. So here we are. This is very, very different. Very, very different for this train indeed. Very, very different indeed for this train. We'll have a look in a moment and we'll show you exactly where we are. We'll unload our load and unload our passengers. Now, we were in Japan for this last moment. Now we're in China. Now, obviously, this normally wouldn't happen, but we've got our lights on. Now, if you remember many, many episodes ago, I'm going to have to do a new version of this. This is the Chengdu high-speed line, which goes with the high-speed trains that run in China. And what I did, we'll open the doors again and I'll show you from the side. what I did was that I ran several trains on basically a speed trial to see how fast they would actually go. This is high speed track built for bullet trains basically, so you can drive them as hard as you want. So what I did, I got like high speed trains, put them all together, diesel locomotives, put them all together. Some steam engines that I had, we'll put them together as well. We'll give a bit of a horn and we'll depart, and I'll show you what I mean. Now this section actually starts out quite slow. 45 kilometers an hour, it starts off quite slow. So what I did is that I just drove. Now this is again on quick drive, so it doesn't matter how fast you drive. I basically drive up, there's a 160 board coming up here. I'm not worried about the speeding, just to illustrate this point. So what I did was I drove up to this 160 board. And it's not necessarily timed in terms of how long it takes you to get to the top speed. This, all it was a very, very unscientific test. You know, a lot of people, when they're talking to a train driver, they realise for the first time that somebody that they know is a train driver, they ask you how fast you can go. And for me at the moment, 130 in this train, who knows. So we'll get up to the 160 speed board in a moment, just to show you how I did this. Actually, I'll have to do it again at some stage, because I've got a lot of new trains since then. So we'll actually go through this turnout here. And also, this is a really good one for if you just want to see trains just going through the countryside and not have to worry about actually driving them. This is a great track to do that as well. So even if you let the train, the whole train go through the crossover, there's 160 board, so we'll just pull up anywhere here, doesn't really matter, because the time you take and the distance you take isn't something that I'm measuring. What I am measuring is what your actual top speed gets to be. And this train, we'll do it as a test and we'll show you exactly what we're talking about. So we're sitting here, so we'll take off the brakes now and we'll open up the throttle. Now it did say that on the in-cab view that the top speed was 90. Alright, so we're full throttle now. If we have a look inside for a moment and have a look at the speedo. Now the maximum that this actual speedo goes up to is 120. Anything past 90 is red, so obviously it's not supposed to go over 90 in service in Auckland. So let's see how we go. 74, 75, 77, 80, 86. Okay, there's 90. Now obviously a lot of that maximum speed in Auckland would have to do with the Auckland network. Now because this train's not on the Auckland network, and also because it's simulated, it can go a lot higher than 90. That's obviously what they've decided will be the maximum speed of that train on that network. So we'll see how we go. This track is relatively straight too, being built for high speed. It is relatively flat in many places. So I would run multiple trains over this line, and I'd just give it a little bit of time to get up to whatever that speed is on a level section of track, and then that would be its score. So for this train, its score would be 98.4. Well, 98 kilometers an hour would be the maximum score, or the maximum speed for this train under the simulated controlled conditions. Now, this train obviously won't be able to go much faster than that, but coming up is, and this boggles my mind every time I see a high speed sign like this, 320 kilometers an hour. Now this train won't be able to do that. So to end the episode, we'll show you some different views of this train, of this, the little Kiwi diesel that could, going through the countryside in China. Next episode, I'm actually going to do a scenario using this train in Scotland, which that'll look pretty Kiwi, I reckon. So this train can be downloaded. It is payware, so you do have to pay for it. From justtrains.net, I'll leave a link in the show notes at simulatedurkgaming.com, and also Simulated Urk on YouTube. So if you would like to purchase and download this, you can. As I've mentioned before, there's no Kiwi route that accompanies it, so you just have to make do with whatever routes you have, and that sort of. There's also apparently there's an advanced mode of this as well. So as our little Kiwi diesel that could zooms through the countryside, what I think I'm actually waiting for is to see a train heading in the opposite direction. If that actually happens. So thank you very much for watching. Hope you have enjoyed the episode. Something a little bit different, but then again, being able to buy a New Zealand train and use it in Train Simulator is fairly different in itself. See you next time. More information, simulatedurkgaming.com, and also have a look at the playlist Simulated Urk on YouTube. Episode 50 coming up very, very soon. Looking forward to that one. Looking forward to your company next time, wherever you are around the world. Stay safe, and don't forget to stay behind the yellow line. Don't forget, tracks are for trains. Bye for now.